coming up on this Wednesday edition of Newsline at noon. And for the first time in 7 years, the two Koreas sit down for a high-level meeting at the truce village of Panmunjom. The Pyongyang proposed talks are being held ahead of this month's inter-Korean family reunions and joint military drills between South Korea and the U.S. Korean female speed skater Lee Sang-hwa grabs Korea's first gold medal at the Sochi Olympics. He also smashed the Olympic record in the women's 500-meter event. Plus, the new head of the U.S. Federal Reserve, Janet Yellen, says the central bank is on track to keep reducing its stimulus, although a recovery in the labor market is far from complete. These stories and more on Newsline at noon. Thanks for joining us. You're watching Newsline at noon. I'm Choi Yuzan in Seoul.
Very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broom. Let's start with the fresh scent of diplomacy that's in the air between the two Koreas. Senior officials from South and North Korea are locked in high-level talks right now at the South Korean side of the truce village of Panmunjom.
The meeting, the first between the North and the South in several years, comes a matter of days ahead of a round of reunions for families separated since the Korean War.
Now, for more details, we are going to connect live to our correspondent Hwang Sung-hee at the Unification Ministry. Sung-hee, what's the latest?
Guys, the opening session ended at 11:23 a.m. Korea time, which is less than an hour ago. And the officials should now be taking a quick break since it is lunchtime here in Korea. The South Korean delegation left for the truce village of Panmunjom at around 7:30 this morning. Kim Gyu-hyun, the South Korean chief delegate, told reporters that he will pour all his efforts into holding fruitful discussions. Let's take a look.
I will engage in the talks with an open attitude to study an opportunity to bring in a new era on the Korean peninsula.
South Korea's 5-member delegation is composed of officials from the Presidential Office of Cheongwade, the Unification Ministry, and the Defense Ministry. The North Korean delegation is led by Won Dong-hyun, deputy head of the United Front Department of the ruling Workers' Party of Korea, with officials from the National Defense Commission, the military, and the Committee for the Peaceful Reunification of Korea. The meeting was proposed by North Korea last Saturday, and the two sides will be discussing pressing inter-Korean issues. Guys?
So we hear the two Koreas have not set a specific agenda on what will be discussed at the talks today. What topics are expected to be brought up today, Sang-hee?
Yusan, it is very rare that the two Koreas hold inter-Korean talks without setting a fixed agenda. However, South Korea's chief delegate said that South Korea will focus on ensuring that the upcoming family reunions take place as planned. As you know, the two Koreas are scheduled to resume the reunions from February 20th to the 25th, and if held, it'll be the first such event in more than 3 years. However, the reunion event won't be North Korea's top priority at today's meeting. Experts say Pyongyang will be seeking to stop the upcoming joint military exercises between Seoul and Washington, which is scheduled to begin at the end of this month. South Korea and the U.S. say the drills are defensive in nature, but the North views them as a practice for war and has repeatedly called for the exercises to be cancelled. North Korea had earlier threatened to reconsider its agreement to hold the family reunions should the joint military exercises take place as planned. Guys?
Yes, well, thank you very much, Sung-hee, for your report, and do keep us updated throughout the day on those talks. And that was our Unification Ministry correspondent, Hwang Sung-hee, with the latest on the first high-level talks between the two Koreas in 7 years.
South Korea has called on Japan to refrain from making remarks that could cause regional instability. This after Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said he viewed a North Korean attack on the United States as a case in which Japan could exercise its right to collective self-defense. Korea's Defense Ministry spokesperson Kim Min-seok said Tuesday, Japan has the right to decide its own self-defense, but warned that its neighbors still have suspicions about its intentions. This is the first time Abe has identified a country against which Japan could exercise its right to act when an ally is attacked. Seoul views Tokyo's push to reinterpret its pacifist constitution as an attempt to revive its militaristic past. Korea had been having a quiet Winter Olympics in Sochi up until Tuesday night with 0 medals to show from 4 days of action. Female speed skater Lee Sang-hwa changed all that with a stunning performance which saw her win the gold medal in the 500-meter race and smash the Olympic record. Shin Se-min has the details.
It was Lee Sang-hwa, one of Korea's leading hopes in Sochi, that broke Korea's medal dug at this year's Olympics. Skating in the women's 500-meter event, Lee clocked a combined 74.70 seconds with her 2 races, setting a new Olympic record in the process. She beat second-place Russian Olga Fakulina by 0.36 seconds. Setting another Olympic record with her time of 37.28 seconds in her second race, Lee is now one of just 3 skaters to win the 2 consecutive gold medals in the women's 500-meter race, along with Bonnie Blair of the U.S. and Katrina LeMaidon of Canada. She's also the first Asian to win 2 straight gold medals in the event. It's not over yet either. Lee will also go for gold in the 1,000 meters on Thursday evening Korea time. Lee started her career when she was a child, changing to speed skating from short track in the 4th grade. She later joined the national team at the age of 15. Known for her strong will to win, Lee did not skip a day of school while practicing on the ice. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now, in economic news, Korea's export prices rose for the first time in 7 months in January, due in large part to the weakening local currency. The Bank of Korea said Wednesday that export prices rose by 0.2% last month from the previous month. Import prices fell nearly 1/3% despite the weaker won because of sliding oil prices. With the US Federal Reserve trimming its monthly bond buying program, demand for the US dollar weighed on the Korean won in January, weakening the local currency by 0.8% over the course of the month. And some mixed signals out of the nation's labour market. Korea's unemployment rate inched up last month, but job creation sped up as more people ventured out into the job market amid signs of an economic recovery. Hwang Sung-hee has the details.
Hiring in Korea seems to be picking up amid signs that the domestic economic recovery is gaining momentum. Statistics Korea said Wednesday that the Korean economy added more than 700,000 jobs last month, the fastest pace of expansion in 12 years. That is also much larger than the gain of 560,000 in December last year and roughly 590,000 in November. The number of employed people in January stood at 24.7 million. The jobless rate, however, also inched up 0.1 percentage points last month from the previous year to 3.5%. The statistics agency attributes last month's rise in both job creation and the unemployment rate to a decline in the number of people who gave up looking for a job. It went on to say that more people were out searching for work amid stronger signs of an economic recovery. The domestic economy grew 2.8% in 2013 from the previous year, which represented a reversal of a 2-year slowdown and 2% growth in 2012. Korea's youth unemployment rate for people between the ages of 15 and 29, meanwhile, rose 1.2 percentage points last month from a year earlier to 8.7%. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
For your fill of Korean and international news, join Chae Yu-sun and Mark Broom every weekday at lunchtime. NEWSLINE at noon.
Plenary session this Wednesday and vote on the government restructuring bills.
U.S. Federal Reserve Chief Janet Yellen has vowed to support the approach to stimulus tapering that her predecessor Ben Bernanke started to pursue before he stepped down last month. Making her first public comment since taking the helm, Yellen sounded optimistic about the prospects for the U.S. economy. Our Kim Young-gil reports.
In her first public appearance as Federal Reserve Board Chair on Tuesday, Janet Yellen told Congress that while the labor market recovery still has a way to go despite a drop in unemployment, the Fed will continue to reduce the support it's providing the U.S. economy through monthly bond purchases.
The recovery in the labor market is far from complete. Purchases are not on a preset course, and the committee's decisions about their pace will remain contingent on its outlook for the labor market and inflation, as well as its assessment of the likely efficacy and costs of such purchases.
Analysts say Yellen's testimony signals a continuation of the policies started under her predecessor, Ben Bernanke. Under Bernanke, the Fed bought trillions of dollars worth of bonds to drive long-term borrowing costs lower. In December of last year, it started to scale back its stimulus program. The new Fed chief also noted the recent turbulence in the world's financial markets.
We have been watching closely the recent volatility in global financial markets. Our sense is that at this stage, these developments do not pose a substantial risk to the U.S. economic outlook.
Yellen also assured investors by saying interest rates would remain very low. U.S. markets reacted positively to her comments, with all three main share indexes closing over 1% higher after her remarks. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed up almost 200 points as investors welcomed Yellen's steady tone. Kim Young-gen, Arirang News.
Korea is less vulnerable to external factors than other emerging nations. The U.S. Fed said in a monetary policy report Tuesday that Korea has the lowest vulnerability index among 15 emerging nations. The index surveys indicators such as inflation rate, current account balance, and ratio of foreign exchange reserves to gross domestic product. A higher reading indicates that a nation's economy is more vulnerable to external factors. Korea and Taiwan were both below the 5-point range, while Turkey and Brazil were both above the 10-point mark. Experts say the $1 exchange rate grew at a rate of less than 5% from April to last week, suggesting that Korea is not as vulnerable to the Fed's stimulus tapering as other emerging markets. French President François Hollande received a warm welcome at the White House on Tuesday, where he is on the first full state visit to the U.S. by a French leader in nearly 2 decades. Speaking to reporters after talks with U.S. President Barack Obama, Hollande said the two countries had restored their trust in one another after revelations of widespread U.S. snooping. The two leaders also discussed the conflict in Syria and Iran's disputed nuclear program. On Wednesday, Hollande will travel to San Francisco and meet the CEOs of Silicon Valley giants, including Facebook, Twitter, and Google. The trip comes as a welcome break for Hollande, as the French leader is mired in desperately low approval ratings at home and a love triangle gone bad.
First, we're standing shoulder to shoulder.
China and Taiwan agreed to improve communication channels to boost bilateral relations on Tuesday at their highest level talks in more than 6 decades. During their first government-to-government meeting since the end of the Chinese Civil War in 1949, the two sides agreed to establish a permanent body to promote communication and understanding. Wang Weiqi, head of Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council, described the meeting as a new chapter for cross-strait relations. His Chinese counterpart, Zhang Zhuzun, said it was impossible to imagine the two sides sitting down for talks in the past, and that they should have a bigger imagination for the development of ties in the future.
Now, a little closer to home, a former leading Korean scientist has received a US patent on a controversial stem cell line that has sparked a huge scandal. It did so nearly a decade ago now. Hwang Sung-hee was earlier convicted of falsifying papers and embezzling government funds, but this latest development may open the door for his return. Paulie reports.
Disgraced cloning scientist Hwang Sung-hee is again making waves in the international scientific community with a recent U.S. patent based on his controversial stem cell research.
The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office confirmed this past week that the NT1 embryonic stem cell line had been granted legal protection along with its respective laboratory process. Hwang was among the 15 inventors listed on the approved patent. The NT1 line is based on creating human embryonic stem cells by transferring the core genetic information of a normal human somatic cell into a female egg. First announced in 2004, the scientific breakthrough made headlines worldwide for being the first ever line of stem cells extracted from cloned human embryos. The pioneering experiments propelled Korea to the forefront of cloning research, with Dr. Hwang and his team publishing landmark papers in the world's most prestigious scientific journals. But the fame was short-lived, as investigations discovered that Hwang had fabricated much of his research results. As a result, he was stripped of his position from Seoul National University and later convicted of embezzling research funds and violating bioethics laws. However, the recent U.S. patent development may mark a turning point. Experts say the NT1 patent does not mean the stem cell production process has been proven scientifically, despite claims by Hwang and his supporters. Instead, he may use the patent to ask Korean authorities to lift a ban on certain research, which he was barred from continuing more than 7 years ago. A veterinarian by training, Hwang now leads the Suwon Biotech Research Foundation in Gyeonggi-do Province, focusing on bioengineering work with animals. Though Hwang's fall from grace tainted Korea's scientific reputation, some say the scandal raised public and government awareness of stem cell research. Korea currently has more stem cell treatments than any other country in the world. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Korea is celebrating the completion of its second research station in Antarctica, becoming only the 10th country in the world to have 2 research stations on the frozen continent. The Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries said a ceremony for Jangbogo Station was held Wednesday at Terra Nova Bay in northern Victoria Land, with over 300 people in attendance. The new base will be able to accommodate up to 60 people at once in 16 buildings spread across a 4.5 square kilometre plot of land. King Sejong Station, built in the western part of Antarctica in 1988, mainly conducts research on marine ecosystems, while this new station will focus on geographic research, including the study of meteorites and glaciers. Now, in cultural news, one of Korea's most respected film directors, Park Chan-wook, has directed a movie about the city of Seoul along with his brother. The film was made possible thanks to thousands of people sending in their own video clips. Our cultural correspondent Park Ji-won reports.
The first ever crowdsourcing film on Seoul has just been released online. Thousands of people from all over the world submitted more than 11,000 video clips about Seoul, and Cannes-winning Korean film director Park Chan-wook and his famed media artist brother Park Chan-kyung made them into a movie titled Bittersweet Seoul. The film used 154 of the clips that were sent in. Rather than focus on the capital city's landmarks, Park Chan-wook said he wanted to focus on the more historic and complex aspects of the city, along with the vibrant lives of the people that call it home.
As the title of the film suggests, bitter and sweet things happen in our lives at the same time. Just as the memories of war remain, Korea has achieved some level of democratic and economic success. I wanted to say that bitterness and sweetness can coexist in our lives.
I think the song that appears last in the film, the traditional Korean song Shimcheonga, represents the film's hopeful message. Everyone benefits from Shimcheong's sacrifices, and she recovers as well. That's the message of hope to anyone who's in the midst of hardship.
41 participants were rewarded for providing their video footage. They expressed joy for having contributed to the film.
I must say I was very surprised because one of my videos is showing something not very nice about Seoul. So when I sent it, I thought this one cannot win. It proved that they were willing to choose something that is not especially pretty, but very interesting about the city, that it's always changing.
We thought it'd be a great idea. She was pregnant at the time, very pregnant. And so we started taking some video, and we said, maybe let's try to do this. Made in Seoul is one of the topics. He's made in Seoul. So it took off from there.
The project was commissioned by the city of Seoul.
Most promotional videos just show landmarks of the city, but they don't touch the hearts of viewers. I hope to show how citizens and visitors truly experience a city and let them speak about their individual experiences.
The hour-long film can be checked out online at youtube.com/Seoul Our Movie. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
And a golden Wednesday to you all as the nation stayed up till late hours to watch South Korean speed skater Lee Sang-hwa compete for the 500-meter women's speed skating event. And it was all worth it in the end. Now with the pressure on her to win Korea's first medal in Sochi, she finishes the first race with the final time of 37.42 seconds, good for first place after the first race. But in the final race, the Vancouver gold medalist turns on her gears and sets a new Olympic record with the final time of 37.28 seconds, winning her second straight Olympic gold with a combined time of 1 minute 14.70 seconds, which is another Olympic record. It's Korea's first medal in Sochi as she becomes the first Asian to win 2 straight gold medals in the event. Now that Lee Sang-hwa is her second straight 500-meter speed skating gold, what's next for her? Well, the 1,000-meter speed skating event set to take place on Thursday. While she might be a world-class speed skater in the 500-meter event, she doesn't fare too well during the 1,000-meter event. And while she's not considered one of the favorites to win a medal, fans here in the nation know anything can happen during the Olympics. And moving over to women's curling, where the South Korean women's curling team went into their first Olympic competition earlier on Tuesday. Now, first off, on the round-robin session 2, the 10th-ranked Korea women's team looked amazing in their Olympic debut as they beat 9th-ranked Japan with a final score of 12-7. But later on the day, facing off against the 4th-ranked Switzerland, despite a hard-fought match, they fell just short as they lost 8-6 despite a late rally in the 9th end. We're now coming into day 5 of the Sochi Winter Games, and with Korea hoping for another great day, let's take a look at a couple of events to look forward to. Now, first off, the Korea women's curling team go into their round-robin session 4 as they're set to face off with world #1 Sweden later in the day. But the biggest event to look forward to will be the men's 1,000-meter speed skating event as Lee Gyu-hyuk, Kim Tae-yoon, and Mo Tae-bum go into the event hoping for Korea's second medal. While Mo Tae-bum fell short in the 500-meter event, it'll be a chance to redeem himself as he hopes to duplicate his performance from the 2010 Vancouver Games when he finished with a silver medal. All right, let's finish things off by taking a look at the medal count after 4 days of competition in Sochi. Of course, taking a look at the chart here, looks like Norway is back up on top as they now have 4 gold medals, 3 silver, and 4 bronze for a total of 11 medals. Canada drops to second with a total of now 9 medals, with U.S. remaining in top 5 with 2 gold, 1 silver, and 4 bronze. Meanwhile, Korea breaks the top 10 ranking, adding their first gold medal thanks to Lee Sang-hwa. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Okay, time now to get an update on the weather with our Jian standing by the Weather Center. Hello there, Jian.
Good afternoon, Mark and Yusa. You know, lately I feel like forecasting the weather for Korea is like doing a weather report for 2 different countries. People in the east are suffering from a thick blanket of snow, and it feels like spring is almost here in the rest of the country.
Right, that's quite a contrast, but we're all waiting for spring now, aren't we?
Well, that's for sure. And in a couple of weeks, things will get much warmer. And speaking of warmer temperatures, this afternoon will be as mild as yesterday, with highs jumping into single digits in most regions with partly to mostly sunny skies. But it looks like there's another round of snow on the way in Gangwon-do that will start from this afternoon and likely to continue till Friday. But the rest of the country can expect to have chilly mornings turning to mild afternoons this week, which is a similar weather pattern to what what we've been having. And Sochi, where the Winter Games are taking place, will have a sunny and mild day with a high of 14 degrees Celsius. With that, let's take a closer look at the readings for Korea. The afternoon high in Seoul will get up to 4. Daegu and Gwangju will see a high of 5 and 8 respectively, while Busan will top out at 7. Now for other regions, it looks like Jeju will climb up to 7 and Daejeon will rise to 6, while the top temperature on Mount Keungang will be at -6. Now that's all for me today, and let's send it back to Mark and Yusan in the studio.
Thank you very much, Jiyeon, for the weather there. And those are the stories we're following at this hour.
Join us again tomorrow right here on NEWSLINE at noon.